Welcome to today's Explainer. If you are an ambitious entrepreneur looking at the Middle East right now, you've probably heard the hype. The market is absolutely booming. But let's be real, you've also probably heard that the bureaucracy can feel like a total maze. Well, today we're going to clear all of that up. We're demystifying exactly what it takes to start a business in Qatar as a foreigner in 2026, giving you a direct, actionable roadmap. Okay, let's dive right in. Right off the bat, we need to address the elephant in the room. For decades, the standard assumption about doing business in the Middle East was that you absolutely had to have a local sponsor. You know, someone who held a 51% majority stake in your hard work. Honestly, it's the #1 thing that holds foreign founders back from expanding into the region. But what's the actual rule in Qatar today?
The reality? 100%. Thanks to Qatar's foreign investment law, specifically Law Number 1 of 2019, you can actually own 100% of your company in most commercial, industrial, and service sectors. The landscape has completely shifted. Now sure, a few restricted sectors like banking or natural resources might still have some limitations, but the doors are wide open for the vast majority of businesses. You do not automatically need a local partner to succeed here anymore. It's a real game changer.
So here is our roadmap for today's Explainer. We'll start by looking at the Qatar business opportunity, then how to choose your legal structure, walk through the step-by-step registration, cover those critical post-setup and visa requirements, and finally show how setting up with Meem Business Services can make this whole process a breeze.
Kicking things off with Part 1, the Qatar business opportunity.
The sheer momentum here is literally off the charts. Just in the first quarter of 2026 alone, there was an 18.5% year-on-year increase in non-Qatari companies setting up shop. We're talking about roughly 3,295 new foreign businesses entering the market in just a few months. This surge is heavily driven by Qatar's National Vision 2030. They are actively pushing for economic diversification, digital transformation, and massive infrastructure upgrades. Because of that, sectors like tech, healthcare, logistics, and e-commerce are absolutely thriving right now.
Moving right along to Part 2, choosing your legal structure.
Now, this is usually the big aha moment for founders. You essentially have 3 main choices. First, you've got the Mainland set up through the Ministry of Commerce and Industry. This is your go-to if you want to open a retail shop, a restaurant, or trade directly with Qatari consumers. Second, there's the Qatar Financial Centre, or QFC. This one is brilliant for professional services, consulting, or fintech, but it operates under its own legal framework and doesn't give you direct retail access. And third, the Qatar Free Zone. Located near the airport or port, it's perfect for logistics, manufacturing, and international trade, but it's restricted mostly to B2B access locally.
So, what does this actually mean for you? Well, it's all about trade-offs. A lot of people see the Qatar Free Zone offering a 0% corporate tax holiday and just jump right at it. But wait a second. If your actual goal is to open a trendy coffee shop in downtown Doha and sell directly to local consumers, a Free Zone company is legally the wrong fit. For that, you'd absolutely need a Mainland company. Yes, it carries a standard 10% corporate tax on profits, but it gives you full access to local consumers. Getting this alignment right on day one dictates literally everything else.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Part 3, the registration step-by-step.
On paper, this can sometimes look like a terrifying 15-step bureaucratic maze, but honestly, we can boil it down to these 5 highly approachable milestones. First, firmly decide your activity code and structure. Second, prepare and attest your documents, meaning get your foreign passports and corporate papers notarized and stamped by the embassy. Third, secure your ministerial approvals and your commercial registration, or CR. Fourth, register your tax and establishment cards. And finally, step 5, open your corporate bank account. If you just follow this exact sequence, that whole maze becomes a straight, manageable line.
You're probably wondering, okay, but how long is this actually going to take? Well, setting up in the QFC is often the fastest, taking roughly 2 to 5 weeks because of their one-stop-shop platform. Free zones usually take about 3 to 6 weeks. A Mainland setup takes a bit longer, maybe 4 to 8 weeks, especially if you need specific sector approvals like healthcare or education. And hey, here is a massive pro tip. Get your foreign documents notarized and attested before you start the clock. Seriously, that is the single best way to speed this entire timeline up.
Next up, Part 4, post-setup and visa requirements.
Listen, getting your commercial registration is huge, but it is certainly not the finish line. You're going to need something called an establishment card, often referred to locally as the computer card. It's a mandatory requirement issued by the Ministry of Interior. Why does this matter so much? Because without this card, your business cannot sponsor residence visas for you as the investor, and it cannot sponsor work visas for any employees you want to hire. It is literally your gateway to building a team and legally living and operating in Qatar.
Now, let's talk about what not to do. These are the common setup mistakes that routinely derail foreign founders. Choosing a broad or incorrect activity code right at the start, that creates massive headaches for approvals later. Assuming 100% ownership applies automatically everywhere without actually checking your specific sector, operating before your final commercial license is actually in hand, which, by the way, can result in huge fines, delaying those tax and establishment cards we just talked about, or marching right into a Qatari bank to open an account with incomplete documentation, resulting in an instant rejection. It is surprisingly easy to make a costly compliance mistake if you don't know the landscape.
And this brings us to our final section, setup with Meem Business Services.
So, 200 plus. Behind that number is a rock-solid track record. Meem Business Services has already successfully guided over 200 founders and businesses to confidently set up in Qatar. They specialize in taking foreigners from just a mere idea to a fully compliant operating reality.
Basically, Meem takes all the guesswork out of the equation. They offer a true A to Z service. They help you pick the exact right activity code, handle all that complex document attestation, manage the runaround for ministry approvals, get your licensing sorted, and even process your visas. And crucially, they provide ongoing PRO services. That means they manage your annual renewals, labor quotas, and continuous government compliance. So you can actually focus on running your business rather than standing in bureaucratic lines.
You know, there's a quote from our source material that really hits the nail on the head. Getting those decisions right before you register saves significant time and money. That is the core philosophy right there. Whether you're an entrepreneur outside Qatar planning your entry or an expat in Doha ready to strike out on your own, having Meem Business Services guide your structure and document prep from day one is just an incredible investment in your peace of mind.
So are you ready to move forward? Qatar in 2026 is one of the most open, exciting, and dynamic business environments in the Middle East. The 100% ownership laws are firmly in place, and the market is scaling rapidly. The only question left is, what will your success story look like? It's time to stop guessing and start building. Reach out to Meem Business Services to turn your vision into reality today. Thank you so much for joining this explainer, and hey, here's to your success in Qatar.